Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, one of the things that I'm finding more and more is that people online are no longer reading, learning, or digesting any information anymore. And I think that is because we're all bombarded with daily narratives, daily trends, and struggle to keep up with so much content that's bombarding us on our timelines. So what happens is we end up taking clickbait headlines without even reading the content. For example, if you were to ask some people out there, and you know who you are, what they think of AI or automation, they'll instantly respond with, it kills jobs, it's machines taking over, it's like Skynet, it's like Terminator. But these are all based on a few scary headlines that they've read. Equally, if you mentioned crypto or Bitcoin, you may get a standard reply of, it's just a bubble, it's not real, I don't understand it. It's exactly the same thing. And I think the reason for this is because bad news sells and good news doesn't. But with this podcast, I'm going to try and tell the other side of the story and how this technology and all these different technologies are going to transform the world as we know it. And actually, it's nothing to be afraid of. Today, I'm going to enter the world of crypto, and I want to take you on a trip to Switzerland to speak to the CEO and founder of Streamr. And he's on a mission to enable people and machines to monetize the data that they produce, and also enable real-time data-driven applications for the decentralized Web 3.0. Not to mention enable people to innovate and prototype with data by improving its usability, and also offer real-time automation by allowing different systems to easily connect to each other. This is a fantastic story, so buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Switzerland so we can speak with Henri Pihkala, founder and CEO of Streamr. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Henri. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
So my name is Henri Pihkala. I'm the CEO at Streamr. Streamr is a blockchain project or a project aiming to decentralize real-time data. And I'll be happy to tell you a lot more about that.
Excellent. Now, Streamr does have a tagline of unstoppable data for unstoppable apps. And Streamr also tokenizes streaming data to enable a new way for machines and people to trade it on a decentralized peer-to-peer network. But many people will be listening, will be new to what you do, and will also be a little bit nervous or confused around the technology, blockchain, and the crypto space. So as a result, I'm on a bit of a mission to demystify and educate people and enable them to visualize how this complex technology will actually fit into their world. And actually, it's nothing to be afraid of. So with that in mind, can you offer an overview of what Streamr is and what the purpose of this blockchain project is, and also what problems you've set out to solve with it?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a bit of a long story, so let's start from the top. So what we do is we deal with real-time data basically, and that also gives us the goal. What we mean by real-time data is data that's constantly flowing in from IoT sensors, financial markets, social media, applications, smart cities, smart traffic, data that's constantly being updated and broadcasted or delivered to their intended recipients. And this is something that is today handled by centralized parties sometimes, and especially in the case of personal data, there's a big problem with all that data ending up in the hands of a handful of big players like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, IBM, and so on. So these enterprises gain so much power by gaining that control over the data. And this is something that could be changed by introducing a decentralized network for data delivery and data control. And this is the mission of Streamr, basically, in the real-time data space. We want to generate a layer of technology that's currently missing from the kind of protocol stack of today's internet, in particular to the publish-subscribe pattern. So in technical terms, what we're building is a massively scalable, decentralized publish-subscribe messaging network where data producers such as sensors can publish data onto the network in a kind of fire and forget manner, which removes the need to build those APIs, build data silos, trust the centralized players to handle your data. And on the other end, devices that the data is intended for can just listen in onto the network and get the data that they need. Examples of this could be, for example, a smart factory publishing onto the network production estimates, which a nearby power plant would be interested in order to optimize their operations. Or maybe a fleet of cars, like even cars of individual people, which will be connected in a couple of years, could roam the environment, measure certain things like road conditions, mobile network, cell tower, signal strength, of course, weather and rain and these kind of things, traffic congestion, and publish that information which is interesting to certain parties, like road authorities would like to know what the condition of the roads are. The network operators, the mobile network operators would like to know if there are any blind spots in their coverage and so on. So what this kind of system enables is kind of data-driven machine data economy to emerge. Now, on top of that technical messaging infrastructure, we're building a couple of applications. And most importantly, there's a data marketplace, which was launched a month ago. So it's a new thing for us. What the data marketplace enables is that the data that's traveling on the underlying Streamr network can be made publicly available, so that these data vendors or data producers and those who can find value in that data can actually meet each other. So it's kind of like an eBay for data streams.
Fantastic. I love that analogy, Dave. I think it really simplifies it, the eBay for data streams. But
Yes.
I want to ask, what is the role of the token? Because you've got the Streamr data coin as well. Where does that fit into it and how does that work?
So the Streamr data coin is the native currency of the ecosystem that we're building. It has multiple roles. Today, it is used as a means of payment on the Streamr marketplace. Once we get to the stage with the overall infrastructure where we can have these token incentives happening, it will be also used to encourage people, incentivize people to run the network nodes. So the Streamr network, which takes care of delivering the data, is a peer-to-peer network. And today it's still centralized. So Streamr runs all the nodes, as we don't yet have all the security and the incentivization and reputation mechanisms in place there. But in the future, what you can do is you can run a node. And what that means is that you're effectively contributing your bandwidth to the network for the purpose of data delivery. And in exchange, as a reward, you get data tokens. It's kind of like mining, but we don't call it mining because we want to kind of keep it separate from the proof of work kind of stuff that's happening in, for example, Bitcoin and Ethereum blockchains, where processors try to solve this kind of artificial hashing problem. On the Streamr network, you contribute useful resources to produce the service of the network, and for that you can earn tokens. Of course, the tokens also participate in various kinds of, for example, staking kind of activities, both on the marketplace as well as on the network to contribute to a reputation mechanism and so on. But that's basically the idea.
So I'm curious about where that idea came from and what kickstarted that light bulb moment. Can I take you back in time and try and learn the backstory of how Streamr became that, how you turn that idea and transform it into a real world solution? Because that's the exciting bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a long road. I've been personally working with real-time data for more than 10 years now. It started out in the financial space. I used to do like algorithmic trading, so creating models and algorithms that listen to the data coming in from stock markets. Nothing to do with crypto at the time, of course, but regular, plain old stock markets. and automatically taking action based on models that we built and selling buy and sell orders onto the market in an attempt to make a profit. And that's when we realized that, okay, like automation and real-time data, it has value. And in the financial and trading space, that has been known for a long time. Like people have been building automatic or semi-automatic trading systems since the 80s or something like this, right? And we realized that, okay, this same kind of patterns could actually be applied in many different business verticals, especially as machines are starting to get connected, the birth of IoT and smart cities and so on. And suddenly the amount of real-time data being transported over the internet is exploding, right? So we thought that, okay, there should be better solutions for this. And initially we started out as a more traditional like cloud service, centralized cloud service. We expanded from the trading space and trading infrastructure that we had to kind of broaden the scope for IoT and more generic kind of data coming in for a broader range of use cases. And we did that for a while. It was fine. I mean, we made some very cool things with some large enterprises, but we always had in the kind of back of our heads this idea of a common ground, like a neutral ground where anybody could come, share their data, monetize their data, find buyers for the data that they are producing. And we never kind of got to that stage because we realized that the only way to build that, the only way to make that work in a way that's fair to everyone. We didn't want to become like the new centralized, Google or whatever that controls all the data in the world. We instead wanted to create something that has kind of a neutrality to it and is not controlled by us, but instead controlled of all the participants in that ecosystem. And then we've been following the blockchain space since the very, very early days of Bitcoin, but only like a couple of years ago we started to really see the potential in that what we are doing, what we wanted to do, is actually a perfect fit for the idea, the more general idea of decentralization. So we kind of combine those two things, the idea of the neutral data network and decentralization and being powered by the blockchain, and kind of saw the light there and immediately started working towards that goal. We kind of pivoted away from the cloud SaaS service kind of business and headed out to the to the unknown in a sense, and we are on that journey now.
Well, here we are in 2018, and you've already announced some pretty big partnerships, such as Hewlett, Packard, and Nokia. So, can you tell the listeners a little bit more about those partnerships, and also how you maybe help them visualize the difference between that old way of doing things and how we're going to be doing things in our immediate future?
Sure. So, for example, with Hewlett, Packard. All of these are kind of research and development oriented partnerships, the big ones. What we're doing with Hewlett Packard Enterprises, for example, is related to connected cars. So I already touched on that subject earlier when I spoke about the goals of Streamr. So especially with Hewlett Packard Enterprises, we want to create concrete use cases, concrete pilots on how connected cars roaming the world can measure things from their environment and make that available for those who find value in that data. And this is progressing very nicely, and the kind of technology that Streamr is building is a great fit for that use case. With Nokia, on the other hand, they have an approach, they have like a new thing coming up. It's this mobile base station. It's like a size of a backpack, like a normal backpack, which you can basically deploy anywhere in the world, and it creates mobile coverage for a radius of around 2 kilometers or so. So it's very convenient to be deployed in some remote locations for purposes of like agriculture or somewhere in the world that doesn't have that coverage, like towns in Africa. It's like a community hosted device that can be just placed anywhere, easy to set up and so on. And it also has connectivity for IoT devices that can be within range and provide data on what is happening in that area. For example, in agriculture, you could have like sensors in the field measuring things like moisture or carbon sequestration or things like this. And the Nokia device will act as a gateway for that data, maybe push it upstream to the Streamr marketplace for interested parties to use for their applications, maybe distribute it locally to others in that village or whatever to utilize. So that's very interesting as well.
One thing that is going to determine the success of any project, of course, is user adoption, especially mainstream user adoption. And I know these are at the very early stages. You did mention a lot of concrete use cases there. But do you have any stats around the number and type of purchases made since launching your marketplace? And and also how you're going to plan on increasing that adoption to get to where you need to be?
Sure. So on the Streamr platform as a whole, we have at the moment something like 10,000 users. Of course, the marketplace activity is pretty small at the moment. We launched it only a month ago at Consensus in New York. We had this big launch event and a fancy pavilion with robots and a 3D printed car chassis and things like this. It was a pretty nice show for the visitors. The marketplace currently contains like an initial set of data in there. It consists of both free data that's available in the world as well as a handful of paid products from data vendors, mostly in the financial space for the paid products, which is one of the kind of early obvious use cases for real-time data, as well as where we are coming from as a team. So that's all very natural to that. What I think will happen is that currently we're kind of celebrating with the marketplace that this is possible in the first place. Obviously, it's not the eBay or Amazon of data streams just yet. It will need to reach that critical mass of content and users to actually become a thing. So that will take obviously time, and we'll also be adding features to the marketplace that might become kind of killer things in there to enable the kind of crowdsourcing of data and people earning as a side product of, for example, driving around with a car. I mean, wouldn't that be nice if you could drive around in a car and earn a couple of bucks while doing that by sharing the data that your car is producing at the same time. So this kind of added features, added content will be the key to making the marketplace face more use. But that's of course only a part of the stack that we're building. There's the infrastructure that underlies it. There are like around 10 million events every day being transported by the network. So what you see on the marketplace is kind of the tip of the iceberg, namely the public tip of the iceberg.
I'm glad you mentioned the Amazon and eBay comparisons there, because to anyone listening outside of that crypto space, the thought of signing up to an exchange to buy data and use it on a marketplace, well, there'd be too many touch points for them in a world of Amazon one-click checkouts. So as you evolve, are there any plans to remove that pain point and streamline the purchase of data coins? I know you are in early stages, but is that where you want to get to?
Yeah, I mean, the centralized marketplaces today, they still have the advantage of a great user experience. And that's something we don't yet have in the crypto space. Like the process of setting up your crypto wallet, going to the exchange, getting the tokens you need to use an application or service, that's all of a bit of a hurdle. And people who are already in the crypto space and know how these things work, it's actually easier than it sounds. But certainly there's a threshold of learning for new people coming in to use these new kind of applications called dApps or decentralized applications. So we will be, of course, working towards making the process of using all our applications easier, but it doesn't only depend on us, right? It also depends on people who make the wallet software. It also depends on the exchanges. It depends on the birth of decentralized exchanges, which will be one of the key developments in this space, I think, this year. A lot of it is depending on how we can solve the scalability problems of the underlying blockchains to enable decentralized exchanges, which would allow you to convert from one cryptographic asset to another cryptographic asset immediately and without any middlemen. But for new users onboarding onto kind of cryptographic asset and value ecosystem, usually the first and most difficult pain point is getting from the fiat world, from the legal tender. You have US dollars or euros, and you want to get crypto assets, and that is the most difficult part by far. And that's not particularly easy to make simple, because there are a lot of considerations there that the exchanges need to be very, very careful about, like compliance with various regulatory things such as anti-money laundering, which is probably the most important thing of all.
So what's your grand vision for Streamr, and what's your rough, approximate ballpark timeline for reaching that vision? And the reason I have to put that disclaimer in there, because I know there's going to be some very passionate crypto users out there in the space on Reddit and Telegram, etc., and they will hang on every word that you say, so we need to have a little bit of responsibility.
Sure. I mean, we haven't given strict deadlines on when we are going to achieve what. The launch of the marketplace actually came like ahead of time. We promised to deliver it by the end of this year, and actually we shipped it in May, and that was a great achievement from the team. But in the beginning of the project, I mean, we started out late last year with the crowdfunding. At the time, we estimated unofficially that reaching the kind of end of the roadmap that was planned at the time would take something like 4 years, 5 years, and I think that still holds. Might go faster, but it's a bit hard to make that promise, since we're venturing into an unknown space, things that haven't been done before, and that means that there are kind of unknown unknowns. You know, there are problems that we are not yet aware of, and those things will surprise us. They will surprise all the projects in this space. Some of the projects have given strict deadlines and on their roadmap, and then failed to deliver those in time because of these surprises, and that's not really something we want to get into. It's good to have goals, it's good to have deadlines, and we do have them internally, but it's hard to promise them externally, because there are always a lot of unknowns, and the space keeps changing at an unbelievable pace. So in 1 year, everything will again be a little bit different than a year before, and if projects kind of get stuck to their 5-year plans too much, then they might actually like be doing the wrong thing. So we do want to maintain some flexibility that allows us, for example, to react to new things we learn from, for example, discussing with our partners. What are the use cases that are out there? How can we create technology that best supports that, and so on. So it's like steering a ship towards a distant goal. It's like a beacon out there. We want to decentralize real-time data. We want to build this network where all the real-time messaging in the world will happen. It's like a missing protocol of the internet today, like adding to that. But getting there will require like navigating these dangerous spots out there, and that will require some steering along the way, for sure.
And you're so right in what you say there, because there are a lot of unknowns in that space, and it is continuing to evolve, and it's continuing to change. And if people are worried about that as investors, what I've got to ask you is, what does it feel like for yourself in the heart of this space? Does that volatility of the crypto space make you nervous that you're building a business such a Streamr right in the heart of these uncharted waters, or does that excite you?
that absolutely excites me. So from the technical perspective, this is all very exciting. The whole team is very anxious to solve these problems and dive deep into the space. Most of the volatility that comes into this space does not come from the technology and the promises of the technology. It comes from the speculation that's happening around these crypto assets, and it comes from the regulatory environment, which is not yet as established as we'd like it to be. So that contributes to the instability of the whole space. But the underlying technology in there is something that's actually rather reliable and stable, and projects are contributing to that, and it's getting better and better every day. Also, the regulatory environment is getting better every day, and the kind of financial authorities and governments are looking into this technology, establishing guidelines of how to, for example, launch new crypto assets, how to do these crowdfunding campaigns, also known as ICOs. What are the kind of rules? Because there's a lot of projects, including ourselves, that we want to play by the book. We want to do everything as properly as possible and be serious about it. But it's hard to play by the book if there's no book, right, to play by. So that's getting fixed at the moment. Maybe even the huge speculatory hype is easing a little bit, and we're kind of reaching this stage of maturity in this space, and that's definitely needed in order to steer this towards what you said earlier, which is mainstream adoption and hard, concrete use cases.
So if we have awoken the curiosity in anybody listening today and they want to learn more about Streamr, download your white paper or even join your community and ask questions and find out more information, what's the best way of doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first step would probably be to find our website. It's at streamr.com, and Streamr is like trendily mistyped without the ER. It's like MR at the end. When we were a poor startup, we couldn't afford the E there, because the domain name Streamr with an E was too expensive for us. So we went with the kind of mistyped version, similar to Flickr or Reddit or something like this. So you'll find us there. We have a pretty active community following on Twitter, also an active Telegram group, which you are very welcome to join. You'll find links to all of these on the website. And of course, feel free to try out our applications, the marketplace, and the engine and editor environment, which is like a drag and drop visual programming environment for data streams that we also host.
I think you're being far too humble. I don't think it was you couldn't afford to buy that. I think you just wanted to be with the cool kids on Tumblr and Flickr.
Maybe. At the time, it seemed like a good idea, but now I have to explain every time how Streamr is typed in this kind of audio broadcast. So,
well, I love what you're doing there with Streamr, and I love how you're working with these concrete use cases with things like automatic cars and the data on there, and also creating mobile coverage to places that don't have it yet in countries such as Africa or certain parts of Africa. And in many ways, you feel like a modern explorer that's navigating these uncharted digital waters and then attracting mainstream adoption as a result. Well, at least that's the plan. So I wish you the best of luck on that voyage in those digital waters. And I'd love to speak with you again in another 6 months or so and see how that journey's going.
Thank you very much. We are like the Columbus. We're looking for a way to India. We might end up in America, but let's see. I mean, it's all good wherever we end up. So thank you for having me on the show.
What a great guy there. I mean, and Henri is another guest that I could have chatted to for hours. And I think it's so important that we don't just read headlines and form opinions based on them, and that we actually talk and listen to leaders in this space and educate ourselves about how this technology is going to transform the world. Because the digital transformation is often compared to the Industrial Revolution. And maybe we could learn a lesson or two from our past there, and how many resisted technological change in the textile industry of hundreds of years ago and smashed up the machines. And the lesson we need to learn from that is we cannot go back to the past and live in the good old days. We can only go forward. And that very different future is going to look incredibly scary to some, and equally exciting to others. But educating and showing everyone comes along for the ride, that's where the real value is. And that's also the only way that we're going to reach mainstream adoption and make that technology a success. So I salute Henri for being one of those digital explorers that's navigating the unknown, and I wish him the best for the future. But as for everyone listening, what are your thoughts? Share your thoughts, your insights, your expertise, or even just ask me a question by emailing me at techblogwriter@outlook.com or tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. Or you could even pop by my website and leave a voicemail at techblogwriter.co.uk. But that's it from me, so enjoy the rest of your day, and a huge thank you for tuning into this show, and I do hope you join me again tomorrow for another episode and another great guest who will share their story. But until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.